absolute catastrophe in New York City that we are a month into the election after the voting, and we still don't know who the winners are of some of those races. And Governor Cuomo decided that he would prepay postage for the ballots, and what that meant was that the post office didn't put a postage stamp noting the date of the ballot. So as they're collecting these ballots in for a month, as you asked me about this, so I'm going to answer. So for a month, they've been collecting ballots with no postmarked date, and in fact what they found is 19% of ballots have been rejected in Queens, 28% rejected in Brooklyn. There are questions about mass mail-out voting, and I know you don't want to hear them, which is why you talk over me, but I encourage you to read the op-ed. Yes.
On the China vaccine research, this is very
You've gotten 2 questions, which is more than some of your colleagues. Yes.
Thank you.
Have been charged with felonies for waving guns at protesters. The Missouri Attorney General is vowing to dismiss these charges. Where does the president stand on this? Yeah, the president, I asked him about that this morning, and he said it is absolutely absurd what is happening to the McCloskeys. He noted that this is an extreme abuse of power by the prosecutor, and noteworthy that the prosecutor, there have been many cases brought to her attention of violent rioters that she's failed to charge, but instead she's charging the individuals who are defending themselves from violent protesters. That's a tragedy, and our schools must reopen.
Okay, my question was about transition rates, but anyway, my second question is also on the president's call with the Russian president yesterday. Today, the nation's top counterintelligence official said that Russia is one of 3 countries that is actively working to interfere in our election. Did the president bring up election interference on the call with the Russian president yesterday?
Again, I wasn't on the call, but the president, I was not on the call. The president has taken more actions for election security than his predecessor, who gave a stand-down order when he learned about election interference. Susan Rice gave that stand-down order. Obama's intel chief even confirmed that stand-down order was given. By contrast, we've given a ton of funding to election security. We take our elections seriously, and we believe in election integrity.
My question is, did President Trump bring it up on the call?
Justin, I was not on the call, Caitlin. Stop filibustering. Justin, let your colleagues ask questions. Justin, okay, Justin no longer has a question. Anyone else?
The other part of the question wasn't just about masking, although I would argue that if you look back and see when he called it politically correct, for example, that wasn't exactly agreeing with the science of wearing masks. But setting that aside,
No, but let's not set that aside, because in that incident when he used the words politically correct, it was in reference, I believe you were asking him a question, was it? And you were standing outside and you'd been tested and you were wearing a mask and he couldn't hear your question, so he asked for you momentarily to pull down the mask. So that was the specific context, and context does matter here.
Okay, well, I didn't need to engage on that, but I was standing around other reporters and using the same mic that other people were using. That's why I left my mask on.
Right, well, he could not hear your question. He asked for you temporarily to pull it down. Everyone in the press pool's tested, so scientifically you are not in a compromising position. And you've got the best messenger, the duly elected president of the United States, talking directly to the American people and getting extraordinary ratings as they tune in to get information from their leader.
My question wasn't about that last piece. I just want to clarify one thing, Kayleigh.
Okay, John no longer has a question. Anyone else?
I do.
I want to clarify.
I don't want to talk over it. If you don't mind, Jeff, maybe we can come back to you.
I would like to finish my question.
Yeah, well,
But when everyone in the front rows get 5 questions, people in the back row don't even get the opportunity to ask questions.
Just that you're not answering the question.
I want to ask about this.
So that means the potential for shifting federal funds away from schools that don't open so that parents can use those funds for homeschooling, for private schooling. The president vehemently opposes defunding police. Why is defunding public schools okay?
So the president has never wanted to take money away from schools, take money away from education. It is about keeping it with the child. The purpose of school funding is to educate a child. The child, if a school is closed, loses the opportunity to receive education and needed social services. So I have not spoken to the president about that, but who I did speak to about President Obama and Unmasking Michael Flynn were the men and women in this room. I haven't spoken to him on that specific point, have spoken to him about the matter generally, and I laid out a series of questions that any good journalist would want to answer about why people were unmasked, and all sorts of questions. And I just wanted to follow up with you guys on that. Did anyone take it upon themselves to pose any questions about Michael Flynn and unmasking the President Obama spokesperson? Oh, not a single journalist has posed that
But
question.
Michael
Okay.
Flynn's name wasn't
So
matched.
I would like to lay
Kayleigh.
out a series of questions, and perhaps if I write them out in a slide format, maybe we're visual learners, and you guys will follow up with journalistic curiosity. So number one, why did the Obama administration use opposition research funded by a political organization and filled with foreign dirt to surveil members of the Trump campaign? Number two, why was Lieutenant General Michael Flynn unmasked? Not by the intel community entirely, but by Obama's chief of staff, by the former Vice President Joe Biden, by Susan Rice, by the Treasury Secretary. I mean, this is extraordinary. And, you know, if it were political appointees in the Trump administration, I can guarantee you I'd have questions in my inbox right now, but apparently Obama's spokesperson does not. Why was Flynn's identity leaked? In a criminal act. It is a criminal act to leak the identity of Michael Flynn to the press, but it happened. Where are the questions to Obama's spokesperson? Because my team would be running around this building should this have happened under the Trump administration. Why did the DOJ, Sally Yates, learn about the unmasking from President Obama? So much for going by the book. As Susan Rice said 3 times, thou doth protest too much, Susan Rice. And then finally, question number 5. Why did James Clapper, John Brennan, Samantha Power, and Susan Rice privately admit under oath they had no evidence of collusion while saying the opposite publicly? It's a long weekend. You guys have 3 days to follow up on those questions, and I certainly hope the next time I ask, some hands go up, because Obama's spokesperson should be asked those questions, because President Trump's spokespeople certainly would be.
Why not have the guts to trash Dr. Fauci with your own names?
So President Trump, I'll refer you back, there's no opposition research being dumped to reporters. We were asked a very specific question by the Washington Post, and that question was, President Trump noted that Dr. Fauci had made some mistakes, and we provided a direct answer to what was a direct question.
Hasn't the president made mistakes? He suggested at one point that Americans inject themselves with disinfectants, that sort of thing. Why not send out these notes to reporters about what Dr. Fauci said in the past with your names on it? They were sent out by a White House official. The president has said he doesn't trust anonymous sources, and yet you were sending out these notes to reporters anonymously.
Look, I would note that in terms of the president and his record on coronavirus, he stands by the actions and the steps he's taken in this historic response. You have Dr. Fauci, who said that the record of this president is impressive. I can't imagine that under any circumstance that anybody could be doing more, and those are the words of Dr. Fauci. We provided a direct response to a direct question, and that's about it. And to the notion that there's opposition research and that there's Fauci versus the president couldn't be further from the truth. Dr. Fauci and the president have always had a very good working relationship.
Just a separate subject very quickly. Does the president or the administration plan to make it very clear to the Russian Federation that there should not be bounties placed on the heads of American soldiers serving in Afghanistan?
We make that clear each and every day to every country around the world that this president will always stand by our law enforcement. No one's been tougher on Russia.
Not law enforcement. I'm talking about military soldiers, U.S.
yes,
forces
of course,
overseas.
that's what I'm saying. Our U.S. forces.
Not just any country, the Russians. Will you tell the Kremlin and President Putin not to put bounties on the heads of American soldiers?
What you're getting at, of course, we tell each and every country that, but what you're getting at is uncorroborated intelligence, and you're treating it as if it were true. To this day, there are varying views on the Russian bounty intelligence. DOD, NSC, and the ODNI all pointing that out. You know, I'm not going to answer a question based on unverified intelligence, but rest assured, every country in this world is put on notice that bounties on the heads of U.S. troops is unacceptable, and this president will stand for U.S. troops at home and abroad.
Do you still see the main problem, as the op-ed pointed out, as the media trying to scare the American people over coronavirus?
I think in many cases the media has tried to scare the American people. I think there's been a deficit in reporting about the cost of staying shut down, for instance. When you have the fact that the American Cancer Society saying that during the pandemic we saw an 80% drop in cancer cases being identified, there are real costs to a draconian extended shutdown, and you never heard the other side of the health equation. You never heard that mammograms were down by 87% and colonoscopies down by 90% and drug overdoses going up month after month through the lockdown. So it was the right decision to make. The president saved 3 to 4 million lives, but it's important to note the other side of the health equation about what extended lockdowns do to the American people.
Welcome to my house, baby.